Hey, welcome everybody to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. Today we're going to take a look at NVIDIA stock for the rest of 2021, which is NVIDIA's 2022 fiscal year. Going to make some price projections. We've got new information as NVIDIA just released their Q4 21 earnings report. And that gives us a little bit better look at how the company has been performing and try to anticipate challenges and tailwinds and stuff like that. Reminder as always that my stock picks and projections are just my opinion for your entertainment. Please make sure you do your own research before investing in any stock. And of course, if you like stock market analysis like this on NVIDIA, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out. Thank you to everybody who has supported the channel so far. Okay, so looking at the performance of last fiscal year for NVIDIA, you can see on the data center side of the coin, full year revenue was a record $6.7 billion. That was up 124% from last year. Then we scroll down to gaming. Full year revenue for gaming was another record, $7.76 billion. That's up 41% year over year. Then we go down to visualization. Full year revenue was $1 billion, which was actually down 13%. Then we scroll down to automotive. Full year revenue was $500 million. That was down 23%. So even though you had a couple categories that were down, to put it into simple math perspective, you know, both of these categories, visualization and automotive, came in a little bit over $1.5 billion. And from a gaming standpoint, if you compared it to that, fourth quarter alone was $2.5 billion. So, you know, these are more like developing categories, particularly automotive. And with automotive, I mean, you're probably looking at 2024, 2025 before you would expect this to be a major contributor if it actually works out for NVIDIA in that realm. No surprise that gaming did really well, and we know that there was a pandemic effect on gaming. I think the data center growth is what's the most outstanding, because don't forget, on the back burner, you have the ARM acquisition. It's still in 2022, and there's still a lot of regulation hurdles to get through. They made a note in there on the earnings presentation that the ARM merger was still proceeding as planned. So that's a really good news, because that's a major unlocked. We'll see if that continues on. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we need that data center business to continue to grind out, and it looks like it's well positioned to do that. Gaming, I think, is always going to have a play. But with gaming, we know we have that X factor, right? That it was pandemic influenced, that helped it reach higher rates, and that's okay. No one's expecting gaming to shrink. You just wonder about the short-term future of gaming, say into this summer and into next summer. Does usage go down as the world opens up? That's a hard question to answer. But at the end of the day, I think gaming has solidified its place in most chip makers' portfolio as an area of sustainable growth over the long term. All right, so now we want to discuss some of the negatives for NVIDIA. And there weren't too many in this particular report, but there was some call-outs that we need to pay attention to, most notably supply demand, right? Just like everybody else is going through in the chip sector, they probably lost sales due to short supply. And that was compounded with NVIDIA in the back half of 2020 because you had a crypto mining boom that's still going on here today. And so you had the excitement of gaming, people locked up, trying to get GPUs for their new gaming setup, especially around the holidays. Then you have demand on the crypto side, essentially for the same units. And you had a massive shortage on NVIDIA's end. And we've talked about supply shortages before on this channel, but the bottom line is ultimately you lose profits, right? Because there's buyers with money in their hand. And while it's great to sell out of things, the ideal situation is that you just barely satisfy demand, right? So you're making the top of the profit curve, but you're leaving the consumer hungry for more. So in reply to that supply and demand quandary, NVIDIA actually discussed the fact that they were going to try to put some limits on their gaming GPUs so that they could not be used effectively by cryptocurrency miners. And Motley Fool does a good job of summarizing this here in the first couple paragraphs. NVIDIA announced it would make its new RTX 3060 gaming GPU less desirable to cryptocurrency miners by cutting its hash rate, which gauges its mining efficiency in half. NVIDIA will implement the change via the GPU software drivers, which will detect and throttle the mining algorithm for Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is one of the few cryptos that can still be easily mined for a profit with mainstream gaming GPUs. Many other cryptos are now tough to mine profitably without a high-end ASIC miner. So this was super interesting to me, and I think it makes sense to protect your gaming population who is ready to pay and basically buy all your inventory. At the end of the day, NVIDIA doesn't have a cryptocurrency revenue line in their fiscal report. So technically, while they likely appreciate the sales that come in, it is a hard segment to project. No one really knows where cryptocurrency, and particularly cryptocurrency mining, will exist over the next 3 to 5 years. So NVIDIA is basically putting some stops in place to make sure that their core gaming fans are able to get to their best-selling units. All right, now let's take a look at the stock and see where this price may land for NVIDIA in fiscal year 2022. All right, NVIDIA stock today trading at $545. It's actually down 6%. We are in a bit of a red day, if you will. NASDAQ's down minus 2%. So coming off of earnings, NVIDIA's down more than the broader NASDAQ index. And some of that, as we'll see, is probably due to the valuation that NVIDIA was running at. You kind of get what some people call the whisper number of EPS or sales, and is it going to blow through the roof every imaginable category? Of course, that rarely happens, particularly with a company as big as NVIDIA. P ratio today on Yahoo, it says 9102. That is in fact incorrect because the trailing 12 months EPS we know now is no longer $6.12. It's actually $10 even. So $10 even divided by a price of $5.46 as it continues to change. That brings your actual PE ratio to about 54. And as a small bonus with NVIDIA, you do get a dividend, 0.11%. That comes out to 64 cents a share on today's price. All right, and I've got the one-year chart over here, and you can see the lift from the pandemic. But you get to about August, I guess, somewhere in here. You're at 525 in August. And you can see it's sort of been a flat line for NVIDIA, despite the fact that on the street we know that a lot of their products have been selling well. And to me, this is sort of an indicator of the valuation right now. All right, so we talked about the trailing PE today actually being in the neighborhood of 54. And if you go back to 2017, 2018, there was some dip here on 2019. You're riding about in the 60s. That even rose here recently before the EPS boost has brought it down. So technically right now, if you compared it to 2017 and forward, NVIDIA's trading at a relatively fair valuation. Granted, all the other chip stocks out there typically trade for lower, including AMD, which comes out at about 40 times. Now, if you're looking at this 1922, 2019 was a bit of a cool down year for NVIDIA as crypto and gaming both went down a little bit in terms of demand. And there was a lot of bearish opinions on NVIDIA, like, hey, they only make money through gaming and crypto, and if those things aren't happening, then they can't grow. But oddly enough, what we've seen here in 2020 is crypto bounce back, and gaming stronger than ever, and now you have that data center growth is well documented into the billions of dollars. Now, from a forward PE, let's remember some of these numbers when we talk about the price projection, okay? So 2017, you had a forward PE of 35, 2018, 48, and 2020, 32. All right, and you also had 2019, which we talked about. So this is a big part of the formula because you have to be able to estimate what people in the future will be willing to pay, what multiple will they pay for NVIDIA's forward-looking EPS. With the interest rates and the bull market, I would say that you would expect between a 40 forward PE and perhaps a 50 PE if NVIDIA continues to blow the quarters out throughout the year. All right, so we're gonna come in here with the 40 or 50 times forward PE, just recognizing the bull market that we're in, and we'll kind of play with the numbers from here. So now we need to know what are analysts thinking for this current year of 2022. And you look across the board here, you got an average estimate of 1175, and you have a high of 1296. I'm much more inclined to land at like a 13 number. For starters, these averages tend to go up as the year progresses on, and I think with NVIDIA, they continually outperform estimates. If I show you down here on earnings history, the last few quarters, you know, the surprise percentage is how much they beat by. So they're beating 6.5, 10%, 13%, and 10% over their last 4 quarters. So while it's not a given, I believe they will continue to surprise. And if you came up here and you took the average of 1174 and you just added a simple 10% to that, you'd already be at 1350. So I feel like 13 is pretty conservative. 13 to 1350 is going to be the projection for the EPS. All right, so if we plug our math in, if you had a 50 on the forward PE and you multiplied that by an EPS of 13, it comes up to $650. Now that's over $100 of where NVIDIA stands today. But there's a couple assumptions to think about, right? A 50 forward PE is pretty high from a historical standpoint. So you have to ask yourself, like, do you really feel like this bull run continues forward? Now, if you adjust that forward PE and bring it down to maybe closer of a historical reference, and I'm looking at my notes here, $13 EPS times a 40 forward PE, that puts you at $520. And if it drops all the way to a 30 PE, which, you know, sounds like a far way, but that's historically not that far, you would land at $390, even with adding the new EPS of $13. So I guess the thing to understand, if you're looking at it from an investing point of view, and should you buy it today, NVIDIA is running a little bit higher, maybe than it has in the past, or perhaps put a better way, it has had times when it's traded at significantly less valuations, right? You're definitely in a bull market for NVIDIA right now, and with chips, they go through cycles. So when it comes down to a bear time for NVIDIA, not about the company, okay? No one's gonna be bearish on NVIDIA, but sales demand can go down, put you in a bear cycle for NVIDIA, then those valuations are going to drop into the 30s and 20s. So that's what you just have to understand. If you're a long-term investor, hey, you pick them up at that time and you wait another couple years for the cycle to reinvent itself, and you're probably doing a lot better than you were in the past. All right, taking a look at the TipRanks dashboard to see what do the best performing analysts think about NVIDIA after earnings. And jumping into TipRanks after earnings is a great strategy because all the analysts kind of come back in and update their projections based on what they've read or heard about the earnings report. And you can see, like, geez, all the way down at the bottom of your screen, a ton of buys, a couple holds. With the holds, you're looking at about 550 as a price target and 560. That's essentially flat from where we are today. And then on the buy side, you got targets ranging from $700, $800, all the way down into 625s or so. So it looks like the analysts are more bullish than I am I'm totally bullish on NVIDIA as a company dominating for a long time to come. However, NVIDIA is coming off an awesome year, so it wouldn't surprise me if it continued trading flat or down for the next couple weeks. And if you don't have a position yet and you're interested in this one, which I think is a great long-term investment, hey, I'll throw it out there. If you see a price under 500, depending on what the feel of the market is, that's going to be one of your best opportunities you'll probably see for a while. Don't forget that no matter how much the market dips or pulls back, we still have the low interest rates. We still have a lack of additional investing options out there for most people. So I would think any sort of pullback would be temporary, perhaps through the summertime, and then we would see the market spring back up and NVIDIA would go right along with it. All right, guys, so that's my NVIDIA stock prediction heading into 2022. Amazing company, lots of good stuff still on the board. Never gonna argue that this is a great long-term investment. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, all the things. We'll see you on the next video.